You were talking, Proppy, about being top 5 overall. Well, let's just look at Neighbors really quick. He's plus 155 compared to a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., who's minus 1,800. That to me screams value.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Certainly in the top 5. Yeah, I think it really boils down to what teams are looking for, and I firmly believe that there are plenty of teams that will value sort of the skill set that Malik Neighbors offers. Just pure, he's such an explosive prospect, athletically, just so impressed with him. I look at Marvin Harrison; he's a great prospect in his own right, but more of a technician. The route running just doesn't have the same explosiveness downfield that a guy like Malik Neighbors has. So yeah, I do believe that there is value on Malik Neighbors going top 5. I think all bets are off the table as far as teams potentially trading up to land his services. And I think there's a strong likelihood that a high percentage of teams will have him rated as their number 1 wide receiver on their boards.
And RJ, you mentioned offensive line with the Chargers a little bit earlier. Is Joe Alt at plus 270 to be top 5? Is that something you're looking at?
It's not a good value. I think the better value is to take him number 5 overall at plus 400. I don't think there's a situation where he goes top 4. But, why play the top 5 number when you can just take him 5th at plus 400 if you think the Chargers are going to go that direction? That being said, plus 400 is a pretty good value for a direction a lot of people think the Chargers are going to go if they can't engineer a trade down, or if the trade happens above them with the Cardinals at 4, like I proposed with the Giants. And they're stuck there. Do they take the receiver, or do they wait on the receiver in a class with a lot of depth at receiver and go with Joe Alt? I know the class has a lot of depth at offensive tackle too, but we expect 10 offensive linemen to go in the first round. I mean, there might not be great options when they pick in the second round. So it could easily be Alt at number 4, at number 5 here. I think the only other option in the top 5 market is to look at JJ McCarthy. I mean, the speculation has been, is he going to go top 5? His number to go under 5.5 has danced around minus 150, minus 160 at some places. It's come down a little bit. So depending on what value you're getting there, if you can get it around the minus 120 range, I would think about it. But minus 150, I'm probably not playing it and just, expecting the trade.
Yeah, exactly. Emery, and that's what I was going to bring up to you, is the fact that you're banking on a trade, which it just feels like that is such a big risk to take for somebody to go in top 5. As much as it's been mocked a million times that this could happen, we just don't know if it's physically going to happen at this point. So is there anybody, you can throw JJ McCarthy in there, is there anybody in top 5 that you like?
He's not listed, but Troy Fautanu, the tackle of Washington, when he checked out with the length of arms that everyone so covets, and you combine that box being checked with his on-field tape, it's like, wow, maybe he's the best offensive lineman. Alt has the lineage and has the requisite size. But, when you think about how well someone can move and be athletic and deal with the twitchier, edge rushers, some people still say it's a big man's game. But Fautanu would be one that I would probably sprinkle a little bit on. But, I mean, it's hard not to go with RJ's logic, because that makes so much sense. The value is just better. If you think he goes 5, just take the higher odds there, or the better odds there, as opposed to the minimal odds you get here at plus 270.
Well, I'll just stick with you as we kind of expand this to top 10. I have Fautanu right here at plus 550 to be a top 10 pick. Is that something that you look at? And as you expand to top 10, is there anybody else that you like?
Yeah, I would say he would be one that I would definitely lean into. It's a shame, because I feel like the way people talk about Laiatu Latu, they act as if he's not going to be a top 10 pick. So is the football side of me is glad to see the odds very small, because that kind of says, okay, maybe he's in play for Chicago or someone like that, or even Tennessee, who needs a pass rusher as well. But right now, the best odds would either be Fashanu or Fautanu, Fashanu or Fautanu right there at tackle, because whoever takes the first receiver, we'll see a run on receivers, right? Whoever takes the first tackle, we'll see a run on tackle. So if we're banking on a guy going 5th in Joe Alt, that means Tennessee needs a tackle. Giants, you could convince them they need a lineman, need a lot of things. The Falcons can get younger and a little bit more talent at tackle. That's a case to be made there. And the Jets could potentially use a tackle. So we'll probably see a run on maybe 1 or 2 tackles after Alt is taken.
No, it's true. It's a very offensive driven draft, especially at the top. I mean, we're talking about possibly like one defensive player taken in the top 10, if that, in certain situations, depending on what Atlanta and Chicago does with their second first round pick. RJ, how are you looking at the defensive guys? I'm looking Dallas Turner here on my page is 10 plus 100 to be the first or be a top 10 player. Latu is plus 170. Jared Verse plus 230. Are you looking at the defensive guys at all?
Yeah, it's interesting. The mock drafts have all pegged Dallas Turner number 8 for the longest time, and that's the fit. Him to Atlanta. Just write it down in pen. Don't think about it. I've been under the impression Atlanta likes Latu, and I think he just fits what Raheem Morris wants to do defensively. And we've seen those odds, connecting the two drop. We saw Latu go from a long shot to be the first defender drafted to around plus 230 last week. Today on Monday, we saw a big change in the odds for number 8. We saw him move in most markets either being tied for the favorite or a little bit of the favorite over Turner for the number 8 pick, and so maybe a little bit behind. So I think a lot of smoke there to say Latu could be a top 10 picks. I like taking him at plus 170, even if he's not the option for Atlanta 8, could be an option for Chicago at 9 to help their pass rush. Also, don't rule out Byron Murphy at plus 250 here. His stock is on the rise in the betting market. Really, considered like he could slip because, there's not many teams that have defensive linemen as their top need. So when you go connecting players to teams in mock drafts, you look at offensive line here, offensive line there, and where does Murphy go? A lot of people project him down to 18 on the Bengals, but the market has been betting him under. He's now favored to go under 14 and a half. I think there's a solid chance he's the first defender drafted. Could even be as early as 8 to Atlanta. Would be a major presence in the middle of that line because what he does attacking from the interior is very hard to find and can really be a game-changing thing for a defense. So those are the two guys I'm looking at, Latu and Byron Murphy.
And Proppy, I'll just bring up Brock Bowers plus 135. I feel like a lot of people have mocked him to go to the Jets at number 10 as a possible option. I know they need a tackle as well. Is he somebody that you think is worthy of a top 10 pick? Do you think that's a good bet, or is there another guy on the board that you like here?
Yes, as far as Bowers is concerned, I love him as a prospect. I see his ceiling basically going, to the Jets at 10. I'd be shocked if he went higher than that. As far as other guys to go in the top 10, I love where RJ's at. With Byron Murphy as a prospect, I think he's got a great chance to be the first defensive player drafted, certainly in play in the top 10 as well. I also love Latu, what he brings. I think he's got a great chance to also be the first defensive player drafted. So rather than, potentially some of these guys, or at least Latu and Murphy being a top 10 pick, I'd also look to potentially attack it from the standpoint of being the first defender off the board there. Typically, you can find greater odds on some of that on that market versus just locking them in to pick 8, 9, or 10. So yeah, I like Latu potentially going to Atlanta as well as comparing him as a prospect to Dallas Turner. I feel like if the medical wasn't the medical is really what's preventing Latu from being far and away, in my opinion, the superior prospect. If we look at the production in college, his ability to close on the quarterback as well, I think he's much further along from a technical standpoint than a guy like Dallas Turner, who athletically is really impressive, but the production really hasn't caught up with some of his physical tools. So outside of the top 10, I'd be really looking to attack, at least with the defenders in this, the first defender drafted, specifically pinpointing Byron Murphy Jr. and Latu as well as the two likeliest candidates.
No, it's an important distinction that you guys all point out. Like, if it correlates and you're like, okay, this dude's going to be a top 10 pick, well then, okay, let's see what his odds are for top defender or first defender off the board. And if you can get better odds there, again, shop around, see if you can get a good price there. Because again, the logic correlates. It all makes sense. You just got to see what you can get in terms of value.